How's everybody doing? Woohoo!
Thank you for sticking around for the final event here on Halloween. But no, thank you. So actually, before we dive in, maybe John and Brock, I'll have you share a little bit more about your role at Walmart and the areas of the business you oversee. I know we heard a little bit from Chris in the intro, but maybe expand a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. So John Elferness, I'm Chief Product Officer, Walmart US. So that means that I look after not just the majority of our digital products that help run the business and help deliver customers or solutions to customers, but kind of how we think about those customer experiences in general, right? Oftentimes our customer journeys in omni-channel retail at a place like Walmart cut through a number of different business units, business segments we might have, but from the customer's point of view, it's one singular journey end to end. So my team helps bring those journeys to life, works with engineering and design to build out these products, and then the business teams to make sure that we're solving the right problems. Brock?
Yeah, thanks, John. From my perspective and my role and what the team does is we really get to pick and choose what items we're going to bring to customers. And in the electronics business, it's a really fun and exciting time and ever-changing. It's constantly moving, but our team's job is to pick the right items based on where the customer is headed, get ahead of that, and also provide them at a great value. How can we make sure that the newest, latest, greatest technology is being provided to our customers at the best price to make that accessible to all?
Wonderful. All right, well, I'm going to start with an easy warm-up question. So it's Halloween. Share one of your favorite memories from Halloween, either with your kids or past, present, or future.
You mean outside of this moment right now?
Outside of what's on the other side of that wall.
Then it's going to get tough. No, we're huge Halloween buffs in my family, as I'm sure many of you are as well. And we're also huge Disney buffs, Disneyland buffs. So, in fact, we just got back from a Disneyland trip that we took with the family late last week. And I was scrolling through photos of previous Halloweens that we've been in the parks together. And I was reminded of a time, I think it was about 3, 4, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. This was prior to the most recent Haunted Mansion movie. And the family, all 4 of us, went as Haunted Mansion characters. We went as the hitchhiking goats. So I thought that was a pretty good memory.
For my family, I have 4 kiddos at home. And so I will leave here to a audience that's similar to this room at my house because the whole neighborhood, all my family comes together. And I think that's probably the most exciting part for Halloween. My house is the location where we feed everyone. So if we go long, I will now be accountable for the lack of food. But really creating an experience for memories, for family, a number of different costumes that'll come through. My 9-year-old will be Taylor Swift, shocker, I know. We do have a Spider-Man, and we have 2 pumpkins. And then we'll have a numerous family and friends that'll be over this evening, so it'll be exciting.
That's great. All right, I want to pull on that thread of the experience. So with the backdrop of this session, talk a little bit about how you would define the ideal customer experience for a Walmart shopper.
Oh, that's a great question. So at Walmart, we are people-powered, but we're tech-enabled. And that really allows us to stitch together these seamless customer journeys that really deliver on a customer's needs. And those needs can often extend outside of the realm of what you might think of as retail, of going into a store, a shop, and picking an item off a shelf. At Walmart, we have a full array of services. So you think about what we offer from the healthcare perspective. You think about what we offer from the pharmacy perspective. And Brock works on the digital side of the world in terms of digital entertainment, et cetera. We think about how we can bring products like streaming video to life with TVs. So what we're trying to think about is how can we get at the customer's true needs, their missions, and ultimately weave together products, journeys, solutions that bring those missions to life.
And from a merchandising perspective, I mean, at the core of what we do, it's price, it's the assortment, it's the experience, but it's really about building that trust with the customer. That's what's going to drive if they get the return visit. And I think if you think historically about where we've been from an electronics standpoint, what that true omni shopping journey is, if anyone in here breaks your charger, breaks your phone, your laptop breaks, we would be first of mind for you to go get that replaced. You'd say, I need to run to Walmart. I think we want to make sure we take this true omni journey is that new tech, the newest release. We want to win week one. So if it's the latest video card that's coming in the latest computing, whether it be gaming, or it's the newest release of a mobile device, whether it's the tablet or the newest game, we want to make sure we're not only solving today's needs, but the things they're going to want tomorrow. And maybe even solving for those things that they don't know they want just yet, and create that experience and that environment where we can be that solution for them. And of course, at the best price.
Absolutely. Well, you talked a lot, Brock, about trust. Talk a little about empathy as well. So empathy is really core to the customer experience and how we at Deloitte anchor, all of our product management and experiential strategies to life. So talk a little bit about empathy and how you bring that to life on the merchant side.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about access and understanding your customer. I think what's so amazing and unique about every Walmart store in the country is it's representative of its community, and each of those communities is different. And so, especially as you think about the electronics side of the business, many times you associate electronics with high expense. And we know all of our customers may not have the same access across each community. That's going to look different. And so understanding the community, understanding the needs, and finding a place across every channel to provide a solution where our customer can have access to the greatest technology. That might be with the greatest brand that's in the industry, and that might be something we create together to provide that opening price point type item so they can have and understand how that technology works and have access to it, not limited to. Because if you think about it, we talk a lot about saving money so people can live better. And saving money is core, and we can do that providing the best price, getting costs low so that the consumer has access to it. And sometimes we don't talk as much about the live better. And for many of our consumers and our customers and our members, maybe they can't travel to the beach, across the globe. Maybe they can't go to the coast. Many of our customers and members can't maybe even get outside their city limits. In electronics, we have an opportunity that we can actually maybe provide that experience to them and help create this moment for them that maybe they can't provide their customer. And that's the beauty of the entertainment business. You can create this moment, this experience, there in the aisle or in their device. And when you can do that, they're going to keep coming back. Because unfortunately, you'll hear our teams talk a lot about the closest stores in their pocket. The even scarier part is the next competition isn't just down the road anymore, it's one swipe away. And so you have to be empathetic, you have to understand your customer, and then through that, we're trying to make sure that we can meet their needs where they're at and provide solutions that they can have access to.
John, anything to add to that?
I think, as a team of product managers, we think a lot about empathy as we're building solutions. And I think the easiest way to really drive empathy in what you're building is to put yourself in the shoes of the customers, put yourself in the shoes of the people for whom you're trying to solve problems. And if you think about the space of commerce, of shopping, of the end-to-end journeys and experiences that we're delivering at Walmart, it's pretty easy, right? We all have to shop, and we want to shop, and we want to do this in a way that's as seamless, as frictionless, as easy as possible. Ideally, we almost imagine this experience where you could just think about the things that you need, and poof, they appear in front of you. So how can we deliver that in as fast as possible? How can we bring that to life for our customers? And one of the things that you think about as product managers is as you're going through these experiences yourself, each and everything that gets in your way and creates that little bit of friction drives you just a little bit more mad, makes you a little bit more frustrated. So as product managers, you really think about fine-tuning those experiences. How can we pull that frustration out and really make it seamless, really make it frictionless from an end-to-end perspective? So that putting yourself in the shoes of the customer ultimately, I think, drives empathy, and the more that we can kind of live that motto, the better the products that we build.
Absolutely. And not just the lived experiences or putting yourself in their shoes, but I'm sure also backed by a ton of data, insights, and signals. So maybe let's talk a little about the hard side of the experience, the quant. So what signals or data, Brock, do you look at when you're trying to think about that next experience or that next product to put on the shelf?
Yeah, from a merchandising lens, there's lots of signals. The number one signal will tell you if you did it right or not is, does your share grow or do you sell it? No better way to find a bad item than when it's still sitting on the shelf. But I think in today's environment, it's even more nuanced than it ever has been. And what I mean by that is, in a historical retail environment, we would have changed what we call, the items that you see on the shelf are what we would call a modular. And we might change that once or twice a year. And those would be the key moments, and those would be the key milestones of when you would see new innovation, new items. But in today's environment, you're having to listen to social media. You're having to watch, whether it be X, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Since we've been up here, I'm sure another one has been released. Because the consumer now is reacting to trends at such a fast pace that we're also having to make sure, both from a customer online ability, that we're getting those items to them fast. We talked a lot about week 1. And so understanding what they're following, what they're into, where is it headed, what technology is adapting is really key. And having to make sure you are adapting real time. Because if in today's environment, if you're 12 weeks late, you've missed it. Because some of these trends, some last years, some last weeks. And so understanding those dynamics and making sure you're up to it. Because especially we talked in my business specifically, that calendar doesn't revolve around the next greatest tech release. And technology is evolving at such a fast pace, and our consumer is adopting it, that it doesn't take anymore a brand large investment campaign from a big brand to disrupt the environment. Mm-hmm. It can be a small disruptor that got social media traction, and now all of a sudden it's the number 2 brand.
Catches fire.
That's never been the case. I would say the other signal that I'm passionate about myself in every role I've been in at Walmart is watching other trends that are happening that where the customer is. I'm a big fan of watching the entertainment industry, the sports industry, the restaurant industry, the travel industry, the places in which the customer is interacting at a very rapid rate. Many times you'll see trends that maybe, do they apply to retail or not? Is that technology going to move into our space? And I think it really opens up a new avenue for you to be first, maybe first in retail, but applying some of those, what the customer is telling you their expectation is, because they're no longer just comparing you to the brick and mortar they're walking into. That retail application on your device that all of you are checking probably as we're on here today, because the mobile device is at the center of your universe, right next to it is the greatest AI. And then on the other side of it's a really good travel application that has people that have the passion that John just talked about. And so you're having to look at more signals of where the customer is because they're moving at such a rapid pace.
And not only what's driving their product mix, but also what's driving the experience. So, John, how do you think about that from a product perspective as well?
No, I think that's right. And I think where Brock took us was to metrics that in my world I talk about in terms of things like add to cart, in terms of conversion. Are we actually seeing the customers engage with the products that we're delivering in a way that's deep enough that causes them to transact, causes them to buy? If you think about sort of stepping back from add to carts and conversions, while those are sort of the final or the consummate or the consummate metric, you can walk back and you can see some of these precursors. And I think the precursors can be almost as important as well. And Brock talked a lot about trends and making sure that you're ahead of the trends. One way to know this is to try to understand what's going on in the customer's head as she comes into these experiences. So I think about this in terms of repeat visits, in terms of loyalty. And the way I internalize it is with this notion of intent. So Brock talks about how we pull the mobile phone out of our back pocket, and there's all of these competing icons on the screen, or these icons on the screen that are competing for your attention. It's like, click me, click me, click me. And really, the customer has already made up a choice of where she's going when she pulls the phone out of her pocket. It's an instantaneous connection in the brain to click on that icon, to click on that app, to then get to the next step of their mission or their journey. And if you've done a good job with delivering frictionless, beautiful experiences to your customers, they come back to you time and time again. So again, while things like GMV, conversions, add to carts are incredibly useful, if you watch the customers, and not just on a transactional level, but you actually get to know the customers and understand when they're coming back and visiting your property, your site, your product time and time again, chances are they'll convert. On the physical side of the world, this, you go back in Walmart parlance, you go back to when Sam was building up Walmart stores, he would fly planes to figure out where to put the next Walmart store. Why? Well, because from a plane, you've got a perfect vantage point. Where are all the cars going? Where is there a really interesting intersection, nexus point, where if I put a Walmart there, it's going to be impossible to miss it. So that's brand advertising. That's how he started to drive this habituation. Then make sure, to Brock's point, that you have the right products for customers on the shelves so that they can actually find what they're looking for. You start to drive that loyalty. You can look for very much the same things in the digital space by looking at visitors, repeat visits, engagements, time spent on site, etc., ultimately ending with things like conversion, add to cart, GMV.
It's fascinating because most retailers would consider those failed journeys if they didn't result in a transaction, but it's intent, it's repeated. You're just building inspiration, you're helping search and nurture what will be a sale.
Think about how much merchants, how much all of us in the digital economy pay to bring users to your site. You think about digital advertising as a way to bring people to the site, and you're paying dollars to bring that visitor to your site. Considering that visit a failed journey just because I didn't check out or transact is a huge missed opportunity. Instead, you should try to be taking advantage of it so you get them to come back again.
Exactly. So let's talk a little, you used the word failed transaction there. I'm going to go down a path there. So we are anchored to transforming the customer experience. And I want to think about for a second where you've had to go down a path, communicate a strategy, communicate a vision, but because of the data you've seen, you've had to pivot. So whoever wants to go first, talk about where you've maybe laid out a plan, started down whether it's a product path or a trend path, and seen something in the data and had to backtrack and either bring stakeholders along or communicate a new vision.
Want to start? Well, I'm going to start. I'll try to be quick. I'll give two examples. The bigger picture example, I was leading the ride-sharing business product tech organization at Lyft for a number of years, and we hit COVID. And the strategy, the high-level strategy at Lyft for years and years had been just grow as fast as possible. It was a heyday of .com, as we've seen ebb and flow and come and go a whole bunch of times. There was plenty of venture capital, so you could continue to drive your growth budgets, spend money on riders and drivers to get them to the platform to connect. And so the ultimate goal was just drive as many rides as you possibly can. Don't worry about the cost. We'll deal with that later. Let's get growth. And then you hit COVID. And COVID was, not to do a bad analogy, but the bomb squad was just in here, so I feel like it's okay. COVID was like a bomb went off on that business. And we had to pivot if we were going to survive, and we had to think, instead of growth, what can we do to drive sustainable growth, sustainable, profitable growth, without feeding the system from those incentive dollars? And so we really changed how we looked at the business and how we solved customer problems, really thinking first and foremost from the point of view of the customer, the rider, and the driver about how can we create value in that ecosystem. It was an incredibly challenging pivot, but it left the entire teams, or the entire organization in a better place, and it enabled Lyft to build better products. Products like Wait and Save were born of that era. One other quick example, which is pertinent to the retail industry, and I think is a fascinating one that I want to share. When I was at Google, I was leading the shopping teams at the time. And at Google, we often had a point of view that, We understood everything better than everybody else, so just let us do it and it'll be okay. And one of those things was on the search results page, obviously we had product listing ads and we were doing a bunch of work with those product listing ads to improve them for retailers. And one of the things that we constantly saw was that conversion rates as the user would click on the ad to get to the retailer's site, they weren't as high as they could be, especially in the era of mobile. We thought, you know what, we know better how to convert those users, so we will create this unit called a transactable product listing ad. And we'll work with retailers, yes, like Walmart, Target, Costco, you name it, to make sure that those conversions happen, that those transactions happen. So feeling very proud about ourselves, we built this amazing experience. We looked at it, we're like, this is gonna work great. And we started working with our partners, again, like Walmart, to roll the thing out. The results were terrible. We couldn't understand it. Users were clicking and engaging on these units and they weren't converting. They were converting worse than if we had sent them to the retailer's site itself. And we thought, well, this doesn't make any sense. We've created a better experience. What happened, you had to put yourself in the shoes of the customer again. What happened is the customers got incredibly confused. They're like, what the heck's going on? I was just on Google. I am so used to this place of Google where I go to Google, I search for something, I click on it, and then immediately I'm taken to that other place. What am I doing? Now suddenly there's a buy experience that's going on. We created what we called an escape hatch. So we gave users the choice. We can allow you to convert and check out right here, and we can do it a little bit, we think, better, easier, simpler for you, or you can choose to go to the retailer's site and do it yourself. So we essentially forked the traffic off, and we sent a whole bunch of traffic back to the retailer for those folks who wanted to transact or convert there. And the remaining traffic we could convert quite well on Google. After we made that change, it worked pretty well, but I thought it was a pretty fascinating pivot.
Yeah, I think from a merchandising aspect, I talked a lot about the disruptors, because the data and the trends would all tell you that no matter the category, and I've been fortunate to be on the food side, I've now been on the electronic side, where, hey, there's these 3 key brands, you have to focus on that, this is where the customer is. And what these disruptors, and sometimes those disruptors are private label brands, sometimes those disruptors are small players. I would tell you an example on the food side where a small player came in, and in this case there was one key brand, and the consumer data would have told you that's the only brand you got to take care of, and the consumer will follow. This disruptor comes in and says, hey, we'd like to do this, and we want to add something into it. Everyone in the industry and the data would say, nope, customers don't buy that, they buy this. Or they go to this aspect. In that category, this brand all of a sudden rose to the top. And the data said, you got to pivot or you're going to get left behind. Now, unfortunately, in fortuitous, this brand wanted us to be that lead. There are other examples where the data would say, you need to stay the course and you need to do this. And we've leveraged our private brand to sometimes change the world for a better place. That goes completely against the data. And it's where, in our canned seafood segment, where we've really invested in changing an industry to be better for the environment, better for the world, where you can change sometimes what the data may tell you, you can be the disruptor. And then I would tell you, there's times where you do it and guess what, the customer is going to respond, and they always respond with their wallet, and you got to pivot. And, I think it happens probably on a daily basis where it works and it doesn't work. It's the life of a merchant. But I would tell you, it's this new world of data and social media and the speed in which the customer can change that the answer today may not be the answer tomorrow. The newest trend, the newest disruptor may enter the segment or come into a category that it's never been in and completely cause you to pivot. And how fast you can pivot and how close you're staying with your customer will be the difference of who's the winner and who's the loser. Because nobody's going to stop them from changing. Maybe you can be the change, maybe you can signal the change, or you can react to the change. But if you're not listening to your customer, you will miss the change, and that's who will, in my world, lose share.
So how do you pivot with speed in such a large organization? Who do you need to make sure you partner with and bring along in that journey?
It's a lot like, it's not easy. And I would tell you one of the things that you quickly learn at Walmart that's very unique and is unique to large corporations is there's nothing at Walmart you can do by yourself. It's not possible. Everything requires a team and everything requires a vision. And if you're trying to do it alone, you won't be successful. Whether that success relies on, because a merchant can go find the next great item. Great, I have that item now in the catalog. But if they can't find it online, if we don't have our marketing partners and the brand helping tell that story of the customer can find it, the customer's never going to know we have it, and it gets lost. And so this collaboration across merchants, our product partners, our tech partners, our marketing partners, our e-com partners, if you're not marching in unison and looking at the data together, you won't be successful. And without it, it will just slow you down, because now I have to go to the next meeting and explain what I saw. And looking at that data together enables us to go, okay, we all missed it, one, or, oh, look at what is that trend? Why is the customer behaving this way? To John's example, and together we can react with speed versus I see the data and then I go run to John's team and say, here's what I saw. And they go, well, I'm seeing this. If you're working collaboratively and looking at a single source of what the customer is telling you, you can react with speed, even in a large organization. And we've done it most recently in the in-store and online experience at a speed of which depends on how you're comparing it. But in Walmart speed, it's pretty fast.
Faster than the historical norm.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you called it out, bringing people together and driving that change together is critical, especially for a huge organization. And if you can use something like data that you can all lock in on, that can become a motivator, that can become an enabler. The data becomes almost the truth that speaks for itself, that you can rally people behind, right? And that's one of the unlocks that I've seen at a lot of places, but also at Walmart, right? Because if you can look at the data that everybody agrees with and everybody gets behind, it's pretty hard to then argue that you shouldn't be doing something, right?
So we've talked a lot about the customer experience. I want to pivot for a couple of minutes to the associate experience. John, how are you and your teams thinking about ensuring that the associates have the tools they need to be out on the forefront with customers?
Absolutely. It's one of the really awesome things about Walmart is, we have this amazing reach across the United States, so we can touch all kinds of customers. But also we have this amazing associate population, and it's quite a few individuals. So again, if you go back to Walmart being people-powered, tech-enabled, the associates that ultimately power the experience for our customers is what makes us truly unique. And it's one of the things that I haven't seen just about any place else that I've worked. So what's fun is how we are working with technology to help unlock what I might call almost superpowers in our associates. So if you think about, and there have been a lot of talks here at the conference, I've seen some of them already. If you think about tools like generative AI, if you think about tools like large language models, you can think about it in terms of search, assistance, et cetera. You think about how that can unlock what you are doing as an associate, as a store employee at Walmart. It's incredible. So we have this tool that we call MEAT. MEAT is essentially a portal, a console, if you will, for all of our employees to access whatever tools they might need within the Walmart environment. And we have taken the rich proprietary data that we have at Walmart, and we have embedded it in these large language models that, again, can interface with the outside world, but that proprietary data stays safe or locked inside. And then our associates can ask questions of these assistants. What friends tell me who've been here longer than I, we used to print out these massive manuals or books that you would get for every store here at Walmart. And as an associate, you'd flip through the book to try to find the answer to the question that you had. Well, before the advent of generative AI and large language models, it was really hard to make that something that was very digestible in the form of human language and queries. You couldn't just build a search engine where associates could ask that book questions. Now it's so simple that my 15-year-old could build this in a weekend. So that's one thing. We have MEAT, we have this notion of associates, but we're also leveraging generative AI to help our associates figure out the next most effective thing that they could be doing in the store. Because a lot of the associates that we have, a lot of the folks that we have in the stores end up being able to fulfill a whole bunch of different tasks, right? How many times do you end up in a particular store and people are kind of wandering around trying to figure out what to do? Well, with the tools that we're unlocking for our associates, associates understand that what they should be doing, the next most valuable action that they can take. And we don't do this so that they, they turn into a part of a system. We do this to give them superpowers so that they can spend more time with our customers in the store, making them feel a part of the experience and answering their questions. I've seen countless customers in Walmarts ask our associates questions I would never think that you would get asked in a Walmart, right? Hey, I'm in the toy section. I've got a 7-year-old daughter and I need a present for her birthday. What should I buy? And I think, oh my goodness, the poor associate, what the heck? What if they don't have a 7-year-old daughter? What are they going to say? Well, this is where the tools that we're building into MEAT can be incredibly helpful so that the associates can answer these questions in reliable, informative ways. Just a couple of examples of how we're working with associates there.
And Brock, I'm sure you've got to think a lot about the associate experience as you're setting up the electronics floor pad and your mods to make sure that they can both be consultative selling as well as just general help. So how do you think about educating or the associate experience in your space?
Yeah, I think, well, it's always top of mind because prior to my life of being a merchant, I worked on a lot of these same tools that John talks about. And I think what's amazing about our associates is they represent their community. And many times they're using great technology in their personal life, and now we're adapting it to their professional. Because sometimes we forget that if you're working in the electronics department, not only will somebody come ask you about something electronics, they're also going to come ask you about that 7-year-old toy. And oh, by the way, do you carry this Oats brand? And do you carry this? And oh, by the way, the Supercenter is bigger than the room we're in. And we've somehow got to help them find that back corner way over there. And this is smaller than an average Supercenter. But in electronics, you've got an additional nuance where they expect that person to be an expert in the latest video game. And then the next question of the next person may be the greatest new phone release. Or it's 10:30 at night and at 10 o'clock, another supplier released the greatest product and we expect that associate to be up to speed. And so through technology, we can be as up to speed as the data we have accessible. As well as we can provide them tools to be an expert and to assist that customer with the best of their ability. And if you give them the knowledge, we give them these superpowers. Because now they don't have to have it all in here. And many of them love their job so much, they've got most of it. But with the rapid pace of which technology is advancing, the newest release, the newest technology, the latest video card, you name it, you go from a lightning cable to USB-C, and how does that affect my life? I mean, these are the questions. John's exactly right. We all think you know the questions, and then add 2 or 3 layers of complexity, and that's probably the average question they're getting. And if you don't, then you wouldn't feel comfortable approaching a customer to ask them because you're scared of what they might ask. By providing these tools, we're elevating their confidence and their ability to not only interact with the customer, but to solve the problem. And I think having the data and leveraging our online tools so that the customer can self-serve as much as they can, but also taking technology in store when that associate isn't there, how do we create that ability? Because they may not always be somebody there. And so with the ability of video technology, with the screens we have, how do we leverage those to assist that customer to help them in that moment, to make sure they're finding the right solution? Because if you can find the right solution, not only will they not return it, because if I give them the wrong answer, they might return it. Problem, that's not good if you're a merchant. Number 2, they're going to keep coming back because they found the solution, hopefully through our associates, but also with the technology that we continue to evolve and try to find ways in which they can help themselves. Because not everybody wants to ask.
Right, that's fair. You've met the need and you'll create that flywheel. So let's talk about Walmart's scale. you've got the ability to think for the here and now, but also 5, 10, 15 years out into the future. So what elements of the customer experience are you most excited about out on that more forward-looking horizon?
Well, we've talked about some of the emerging technologies that I think are going to be really powerful, so we can start there. We can certainly talk about generative AI. We can talk about large language models. And again, if you were lucky enough to be at some of the other talks that were in this room, I think the speed of change in that industry and with the developments that we are seeing in what you might as well call artificial intelligence is really phenomenal. It's incredible. Spend some time trying to wrap your head around it because that world is going to continue to change at a rate that most humans, I've never seen. I don't think any of us have ever seen. So I think we have to ride that wave. You think about other technologies, though, nearby, things like VR, augmented reality, absolutely going to, in time, drive experiences, especially in the shopping and retail space. Even technologies like drones are going to impact the space when you think about the ability to deliver products to customers in a matter of minutes down from a matter of hours. So those will be some of the fundamental technologies that I think will continue to really push us forward. But when I think about building for a long-lasting future, I think about something that maybe I'm a geek, but is near and dear to my heart, is the notion of platforms. How do we build truly long-lasting platforms in the product space, in the technology space, so that the surfaces that we have, whether it's search, whether it's assistant, whether it's things like supply chain, pricing, merchandising, et cetera, so that we are building long-lasting, again, platforms that we can add on to over time, that we end up not having to rebuild, but we can instead reuse. We can reach to different markets, different countries. We can bring to life in different instances. And the user need or the customer need may change, may evolve over time. But if you've been thoughtful about how you're building those fundamental technology platforms, again, leveraging some of this technology that we talk about, the experience itself becomes a bit of a skin that sits on top of the platform. So you can almost decouple them. You can rip one skin out, you can put another one on, and you can adapt to the changing needs of customers. So again, a handful of really interesting technologies that I think are worthwhile keeping an eye on, and then thinking from this platform or this fundamental capability mindset, I think are a couple of the ways that we really think about embracing this longevity for the future.
For my world, I'm most excited about how we can bring that physical merchandising experience to life digitally, but also we're revolutionizing how it's coming to life in store. And what I mean by that is, if you go to a current layout, you might see things that you have make no sense of why they're by each other. And truly breaking down the walls of how the customer is shopping. And so most recently we talked about the speed. When Kevin and I first met 5 months ago, I was telling him about this idea of relaying out the way an electronics area is in a store. And it was really focused around how the customer is shopping and way they're leveraging technology. And so in this store, you put mobile phones in the middle of the department. It's the center of what we do. Everybody in here has one in your pocket, or two, maybe three. And you've probably checked it multiple times because it's what tells you what's going on. It's telling you what's happening with your family. Many of you have traveled. It's helping you stay in touch. And then next to that is the things that go with it. It's the case that protects it, the cord that charges it, or maybe it's then the speakers that you listen to that are connected to those devices. And by it's the vinyl. And so then you kind of branch out from this, and on the left, it's all about entertaining me. Entertain and help provide me ways in which I use those screens for entertainment. And oh, by the way, when I buy a TV, guess what? Many people want to hang it. They want to hook things up to it. So having those things in an adjacent format have really elevated that experience. And then telling them the brands that we have. Many times our consumer, if you're not careful, we talked about if you don't tell them you have it, are shopping other aisles and then buying that product from somebody else because they don't know we have it. So creating this environment where they want to come in and entertaining, helping them provide gamification on those screens is really important. And on the other side, it's all connecting your life. And the connecting your life is changing at such a rapid rate that the consumer almost needs a bit of education. 3 years ago, especially through COVID, it was, I need a new modem. Well, by the way, your modem's only as good as the data in which goes into that modem. And then you get a good modem, your router is only as good as the modem, but you need a good router or all your Zoom calls and your kids' student classes aren't going to work. You'd be amazed how little information the customer has about those decisions and how they go through it. But now if you think about connecting, it's more than the laptop, it's more than the modem. Now we've introduced smart homes, we've introduced security, we've introduced smart health, and all of these things are working together. And so trying to find a way online, it's a little bit easier. Now we're creating this in-store environment where you can tell that story because, yes, it's important, and many times they're coming to electronics. But we talked about the supercenter, and we have a lot of categories that are also in this. And how do you tell how those things can work together and inform the customer we have it? And here's how they work together. And oh, by the way, we carry all these colors that we'd love to sell you online, and we can get them to you in a really fast way. Because of our market penetration, every store can be a little different because it can represent. But you might want the blue, I might want the yellow, John wants the red, and we can provide that solution in a way that no one else can. And so what excites me about is creating this truly omni ability that we can provide the customer everything they need in the speed they want it at the price they deserve.
Well, John, Brock, thank you.
Thank you.
What one parting thought, if any, would you want to leave the group as they think about improving their user or customer's experience?
Really briefly, we talked a lot about technology, we talked about product, we talked about artificial intelligence. Keep in mind, it's ultimately all about the customer. You are solving problems for human beings. Make sure you keep the customer at the center of the problems that you're trying to solve. It's not technology for technology's sake. It's technology to solve problems for customers.
It's really around what's the priority for the customer. If you stay close to it, it's going to change. It can change. And if you're not reading the signals, whether it's the main KPIs that we talked about or even the preemptive signals, you'll miss it. And in our business, it's as important to get the right product because those take lead times. It's having the ability and the humbleness to respond and say, we missed it. Here's now what the customer's telling us. Or maybe the customer changed, and working with the proper teams to adjust, because it's important for your business, but more importantly, for all of us, it's important to our customer. And if we can provide them what they're looking for, I talked a lot about, for me, it's focus on price. It's that assortment, getting them the right items. Provide them an experience they deserve. Online, in-store, doesn't matter. Our customer deserves the best. And if you do that and you get them the right product at the best quality, you'll get the trust. But if you lose trust, whether that be the customer or the associate, you've missed it all. And I think that's at the core of, if you can build that, then you'll win.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it,
Happy
everyone.
Halloween.